Knits and purls are the two most common stitches in knitting. The knit stitch creates an open V like this, and the purl stitch creates this horizontal bump. Let's make a knit stitch. With the yarn on the back side of your work, insert the working needle into the front leg of the first stitch. Wrap the yarn around, pull the wrapped needle down, and slide it off. As you do this, the wrap becomes a new stitch. The stitch you knitted into slides off the needle from the row below. Leave the new stitch on the working needle. Let's try that a few more times. Slide your needle in here, wrap your yarn like this, pull your needle down, slide the old stitch off, and you have another new stitch. Sometimes a little rhyme can help. In through the front door, run around the back, out through the window, off jumps Jack. Continue until you've knitted all the stitches. The needle that was empty when you started is now full of stitches, and the needle that had all the stitches is now empty. Now flip your work and change hands like this. This sets you up to work your next row. Now let's make a purl stitch. Bring the yarn to the front of your work. With your needle slanted towards your work, slide the tip of your needle into the front leg of the first stitch. Wrap your yarn around the needle and pull it through to make a new stitch. Slide it off the needle. You now have one purl on this needle. Let's try that again. With the yarn in front, insert your needle into the first stitch. Wrap your yarn, pull the needle back to purl, slide the stitch off the needle. Purl all of the stitches across. Now you're ready to create an endless number of stitch patterns. Let's take a look at 4. This swatch is the Garter Stitch. It lies flat, no curling, and has a noticeable row of V's and bumps. Simply knit every row to create this stitch pattern. Here is Stockinette. Create this pattern by knitting every right side row and purling every wrong side row. Said another way, knit one row, purl one row, and repeat that pattern throughout. The right side shows all the knitted V's. The wrong side shows all the purl bumps. This smooth stitch pattern has a natural tendency to curl on the edges. When you alternate between the knit stitch and the purl stitch, lining them up row after row, you have a stitch pattern called ribbing. This fabric has ridges and is very stretchy. It's great for bands and cuffs. If you stack purls on top of knits and vice versa, you'll create the moss stitch, also called seed stitch. This fabric is sturdy, but not very stretchy. Now that you can knit and purl, try your hand at one of these stitch patterns. For more knitting and crochet tips from One Big Happy, click subscribe below. Happy knitting!